Have you ever been to the studio and left feeling discouraged, disappointed, and feeling like you wasted time, money, and didn't get the exact result that you wanted? Well, if that's the case, then this podcast is for you. Throughout the years, we've helped countless artists overcome this issue of frustration, unproductiveness, and disappointment that lead to the inevitable result of quitting your music career. Now, here at the Audio Alchemy Podcast, that is the last thing we would want for any of you, which is why today we're going to show you how to win in the studio. Whether you're an artist, producer, engineer, or any other professional within the music industry, these are a few topics and tips that are important to keep in mind when booking your next studio session. So sit back, relax, grab a few snacks and drinks, and enjoy the video.
Enjoy.
Cool. So what do you think about that, my friend? What do you think about the frustration that these artists face?
You know, there's a lot of different frustrations that artists face when they come to the studio, not specifically at my studio particularly, but I know that a lot of other artists, from what they have at least told me, they've booked at other locations and they've encountered a lot of issues. And a lot of those issues are mainly based off the overall factor of them not getting the exact result that they wanted within that studio session.
To add on top of that is I feel like there's a lot of artists that they could prepare themselves a little bit better too to also avoid that frustration. Yeah, I agree with you. Like going to the right place is one of the key things that they have to do. That's obviously a given, but then also too,
the preparation factor is a huge importance.
Yeah, because I feel like there's like a lot of artists who kind of just go into their studio sessions without really having necessarily a game plan. And if that's what you want to do within your studio session, that's all great too. Like sometimes it's cool to just go in it, but you need to understand that.
Right.
And I feel like, yeah, there's a lot of things that you really need to keep in mind to just make it as efficient as possible for you. Because even if you do go to a studio that's luxury, you're working with the proper engineers and all that kind of stuff. And if you're simply just not prepared for your session, you don't really know what you want to do or whatever, then ultimately you could be just wasting time.
Yeah, you're not making proper use of your time whatsoever in that case.
Yeah, exactly. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to talk about things that you could do to prepare yourself before you even get into the studio, which is very, very important. So obviously after you book a session, you set the time that you want to come. Make sure that you try to come on time. And one of the big things for that to kind of help you out is understand where the studio is at and the hour that you're coming in. Because if you're coming in like traffic hour or whatever, factor in that traffic, you know what I'm saying? Because there's nothing worse than you arriving late to your studio session and then you're going to have to cut it short. I mean, certain engineers, sometimes they will extend it, but if an engineer is booked, then you're missing out on time and you're just wasting money again.
Exactly.
At that too. So you want to make sure that you understand where you're going and give yourself some time to prepare. So once you have your studio session booked and you know where you're going, even before you even book, if you have a song idea or that kind of thing, make sure you have that prepared. It just depends on your style, really. So if you're an artist and you like to write out your songs, then have that prepared. Or if you're an artist and you want to just come in and freestyle, at least have your beats prepared. Even maybe send your engineer the beats before your session, so that way the engineer could possibly have it loaded up, ready to go for you before you even, like, you could just walk through the door, sit down, and just get straight to recording.
Shit, every minute counts,
Yeah, so that's like the best case scenario. So because usually, like, you can come in and you can get settled in, and it takes a little bit of time too. So if you didn't send your engineer your instrumentals beforehand, then that's gonna it doesn't take an extreme amount of time, but it still does take a little bit of time to get everything set up, if you're engineering properly. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of engineers that they just fucking drag it in, boom, they don't even fix it for shit, but that's just a side note. And then two, if you have a specific song written, one thing that could also help your performance is to practice your song.
100%.
So there's multiple ways that you could practice your music, you understand, or your songs. You could either just rap it out loud, you understand, that's like old school style, I feel. Like there's a lot of people who they'll hear a beat, they'll just load it up, they'll have it playing in the background off a speaker or some shit. They're writing their lyrics to it and then they're just kind of rapping out loud. But one thing that I've noticed, the issue with that is you don't have that direct voice to mic connection, because it's a different experience when you're literally listening to
yourself on the microphone.
Yeah.
No, 100%. I think a good example with that, funny enough, is I had a client come in actually last week, and he had about 6 songs, and he did all of them on BandLab, right?
Yeah.
He did all of them on BandLab, and he told me actually that he hadn't been to the studio in about like 8 months to a year or so. And all of the songs that he did on BandLab, they sounded good. And when he came to the studio, he was literally prepared, 100% ready, and he got each song done, funny enough, in like probably 15 minutes or less. So it just goes to show, like, if you kind of practice hearing yourself in the mic, it's easier to have more of a confident delivery when you are in the studio.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things too is, I mean, sometimes you can be attached to that demo or whatever the fuck, but if you're productive yourself, demoitis, no, whatever. But if you're too attached to it, then maybe it'll be a little bit more difficult for you to recreate that kind of vibe that you were initially in. But I mean, that's just something that you gotta have to kind of play with. So it all depends on your workflow. If you want to create that many songs within a session, then go ahead. And then if you practice it, again, you're going to be saving yourself time. And yeah, again, when you listen to yourself delivering on the mic, even that could influence the way that you're writing.
100%.
So if you are making a melodic song, you know what I'm saying? You want to hear the melody over the beat, at least, to hear if it sounds good or if it matches. Because if you're writing a song and you plan on using autotune or something like that, it's going to be it's going to be more difficult for you to hear what the autotune is going to sound like if you're just listening to a beat and you're just rapping over the beat. And
100%.
Again, that influences the lyrics and your delivery and the way that you come off. So yeah, all that stuff, again, it prevents that frustration, because there's certain people who they will come to the studio and and if they didn't practice, they'll have a difficult time.
Yeah.
You could potentially have, let's say, like 2-3 hours just working on one song simply for the fact that you were unprepared.
Yeah.
That's something that I want to go into a little bit later within the podcast, understanding how you want to treat your session, because that's crucial for you to win as well. You need to know, okay, I'm going in here and I'm going to do this, or what to kind of expect out of it. Because
I think I agree 100%. I feel like, if you're going to come in like with a song that's already written, great, you know what I mean? But let's just say, for example, you're an artist who likes to come in and you like to literally, you don't even know what you're going to work on today, right? You're going to set the vibe right when you get into the studio. I feel like the most important thing is to just have enough time to do that. So if you're one of those artists who is going to book a session where you want to come in and you're going to just freestyle everything, you're going to write everything off the top, everything's just going to come to you while you're in the session, in the moment. Just make sure that you have enough time for that, so that way time isn't an issue in your creative process,
Yeah, exactly. And that's all the stuff like a little bit before, but there's also a few other things that you could do before your session to make sure that you have a great, smooth, seamless session. So
let's get into it.
Yeah, so one of the other things too is make sure that if just depending on when you're having your session, this is just simple dumb shit, but it's true. Just like if make sure you're well fed or whatever, you know what I'm saying. Make sure you're well rested or whatever, because there's nothing like fucking with anything that you do. You
think of it like going to school or going to work, like whatever the situation is. Like, you want to make sure you have enough rest for whatever you're doing, and like being in the studio is almost like work. You're putting in the work, so you want to be prepared. And you want to be at 100, so that way when you come in here, you can give it 100% yourself.
Yeah, because there's certain songs that do require a lot of energy. I've most definitely
1,000%.
Yeah, I've most definitely worked on songs like, even it's cool too, like when you can like build a song and build it from the ground up type shit. Like if you just wanted to start there, but once you start like laying your lead vocals, and then you want to start doing some ad libs, and you're thinking about ad libs, and then you're thinking about layers and all that kind of stuff. And if you're a type of person who's conscious about where you're placing all of your takes and all that kind of stuff, and the arrangement of your song and all that kind of stuff, once you're really getting into that type of pocket, it does require a lot of energy, and you could get pretty burnt from the session too. So that's why it's very crucial to be well rested, well fed, well prepared, and also bring what you need to the studio session. So this kind of plays off into making sure you're on time. Yeah. So if you know that you're gonna need water, or I mean, usually most studios will have water, but let's say you want like a coffee or some shit to give you energy or that kind of stuff, just make sure that you have that shit before, so that way you could maximize that. Again, you just want to remove the friction, because that's just what's going to create a better experience overall. And as engineers, we can do whatever we need to do too. So we'll set up the vibe for the studio. If you're a studio owner, personally, I like to make sure that the lighting is good. I like to make sure that the studio smells good,
Clean.
that it looks good, because you really give a client that wow factor when they walk into your studio, when everything's nice, clean, neat, and ready to go. That first impression is everything, especially if it's a brand new client. So that can also improve the mood of the artist. Another thing too is, usually, I mean, we're in the studio, this is a creative space, so if you have a bonus of working on crazy records, you know what I'm saying, if you have specific accolades, fuck it, hang them up. I mean, but anybody who did have an accolade, fucking, I don't know who wouldn't hang that shit up in their studio or whatever.
Right.
Like, people already have that type of shit. But even if you don't necessarily have specific credits or anything like that, just hanging up art on the wall of people who are inspiring or inspired you type of shit, or motivational quotes.
I think one of the most important things as a studio owner is making sure that when the clients come in, they're in a space that is comfortable for them to work in. And thankfully, I feel like every time that I have people come in here, they always literally just, they feel at home when they record, you know? And transitioning from my old studio now to this one, it's even more of a better vibe for them. So it's awesome, you know?
Yeah, and on a side note, the new bunker. We're officially in the new bunker. We mentioned it like a few podcasts ago. You know what I'm saying, that we're going to switch locations, and now we're finally here.
We're finally here. We made it.
Yeah, so we're going to have more great shit to come. But then also too, building off of that. Well, okay, so let's do it like this too. So when you book specific studios too, if you're a type of person that really does care about specific gear or specific requirements that the studio has, also kind of like ask about those things. Like if you're really curious about, like, what mics do you guys have, or this and this and this and that, obviously ask too. And sometimes too, if we don't have particular gear that you want, I mean, there's always the route of renting it, but I don't ever think it's that serious.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But just like in case if that's what you wanted to, make sure you also do that. And then another thing too that I kind of want to transition into is the use of substances in the studio. So another thing too is, like, we're in music, you know what I'm saying, and a lot of wild crazy shit could go down in the studio, you know what I'm saying, like you never know what the fuck could happen, you know what I'm saying.
Oh boy, I have seen it firsthand.
Yeah, there's
I have some pretty crazy stories, not even gonna lie.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are just doing crazy shit, you know, they just turn the fucking studio into a party, and that's cool too, but just understand that could also ultimately affect your performance. It just depends on the mood you're in. You know, if you really want to like create like a party scene, party vibe, and make music like a party or whatever the fuck, then I kind of get it.
Yeah.
But let's say you're inviting like 10 heads and you want to fucking make a song about how you're fucking all emotional and heartbroken and shit, that's gonna fucking be funny as fuck.
Yeah,
you know
look,
what I'm saying?
it's funny because look, there's gonna be people who are like, oh, shut up, they're paying you, so shut up. But it's funny, one time I had a session where somebody paid me. It was low-key like, he paid me like $80, $90 an hour or something, right? He rented the studio out, and he literally pulled up. What did he pull up with? A fat tank, all these other drugs, poured everything out on my desk. I'm like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? And like, he literally he just rented the spot to party. And to be honest, as an engineer, it's like, I'm kind of here to do business. I want to work, like, I want to actually be productive within my session. But that's why people are going to be like, oh, shut up, you're getting paid, so whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I feel like at the end of the day, personally, like, my perspective on it is, if you're going to be in the studio, like, at least take it somewhat serious, so that way, you know, you can actually leave the studio with something, you know, rather than just leave being fucked up.
Yeah, and I feel like it just
it all depends though. It all depends. That's just one situation.
Nah, but there's a lot of people who will say that kind of shit. They'll say, "Oh, they're paying you, just shut up and record, do this and do this and do that." I mean, yeah, that's cool, but there's a lot of things that just aren't worth it for the money. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, yeah, then if let's say you're an artist, you're like, all right, fuck it, I'm not gonna go with this guy, I'll go with another guy. Find whatever works best for you. But personally, as an engineer too, it's funny, it's a whole communication thing. There's a lot of, not that there is a lot of tension, but there could be a lot of tension where certain people will be like, all right, fuck it, I'm not gonna work with you, and then it's like, all right, fuck it, I'm not gonna work with you. and that's fine
business.
too. Yeah, that's how it is.
Do your thing.
But fucking, nah, like, I'm just speaking from personal experience. Yeah, like who would want to be in a, I mean, unless you got an issue, fucking call somebody up for that issue. But who wants to just be in the studio just to get like mega fucked up and not do shit? So why did you even go to the studio? Like you're just looking for a place to get fucked up at that point.
And believe me, there are a lot of people who do that. And it's like, hey, whatever it is what it is. That's just the game. That's just how this shit works. You know what I mean? But as like an independent artist, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like the main important thing is just to take your time serious. And that's why we're here, is we're trying to just teach all the independent artists out here who are booking studio sessions at your local studio, you know, how to just benefit the most out of the time given that you have.
Yeah, and if you were to take specific substances, like
just be smart, know your limit.
Exactly. Yeah, there's certain people who they have to smoke, they need to smoke. You know what I'm saying? They're like, oh yeah, this. They just say it gives me a specific vibe or whatever. So then fuck it, go ahead. But then don't overdo it too. Like, yeah, that's what we mean by know your limits. Because let's say if you go and you're too fucking faded where you're just stuck and you can't even record anything, then fuck.
That's no fun.
Yeah, you fucked up.
That's no fun.
You
it's a waste of time, waste of money. And you know what I'm saying? Nobody wants that. The engineer doesn't want that. You know, because at the end of the day, look, as an engineer even, whoever you're recording, you know, you both want to create a product at the end of the day that you guys are happy with. And for me as an engineer, like if somebody books a 3-hour session and we don't even get one song done, it's cool, don't get me wrong. It just depends on how much effort is being put in the first place. Some songs may take like 6 hours to even complete, you know what I mean? But if you're kind of just bullshitting the whole time and you don't get anything done, what fun is it for the both of us? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because some people think that...
but shut up and record. You're getting paid.
Yeah, and some people think that engineers don't care, but in reality, we care the most. You get what I'm saying?
100%. We do care about the artists. We care about the work that you guys are doing. We care about the music, more importantly.
Yeah, we're all a team. You get what I'm saying? So it's like as far as the whole team goes, like we all want to be part of a product and a production that actually succeeds.
Yes, sir.
And that's another thing that could lead to the frustration and disappointment. It's like when you're putting in a lot of work and you don't see that success, well, you got to think about all these different factors to even just really be efficient when you're creating within the studio too, because I feel like there's a lot of people who they want to be perfectionists and hold on to that kind of stuff too, and that's respectable too. But if you hold on to that thought of being perfect, then in all reality, you're not even producing or you're not being productive because you're so attached to that thought of being
you're being
perfect.
Too hypercritical on like one particular thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so that's one thing too that you want to kind of like experience, because now that I've been creating for like 8 years or just being within a creative space, the thing about creativity that I've learned is once you're creating something, like it's just an idea and whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? So
right.
Just kind of like be able to look at that and see it for what it is, not for what it's not. Because if you're looking at it and you're like, fuck, like I wanted my song to be like this, or I wanted it to sound like this, but it didn't end up sounding like this, and you're holding it to such a high expectation or a high standard, once that expectation isn't met, that's where you get those thoughts of frustration and being discouraged and all that kind of stuff too.
Right.
So very early on in my career, I had to train myself to understand that and be like, okay, this is what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking at it for what it's not, because if you look at it for what it's not, then again, you're always going to be disappointed.
I like that. That's fire.
So, and I learned that through everything that I've created too. So like with these podcasts, for example, usually I just kind of let it go with the flow. If you guys haven't tuned into the personal YouTube, the Goops' Room YouTube, same thing. Like I'll create videos and I want them to be perfect too. But at the same time, you just got to learn to let go and just release it out to the world and just let people consume it and see how it's taken, because that's the only way you're really going to be able to see what works and what doesn't work.
Everything in life is trial and error at the end of the day.
Yeah, so you want to just make sure you're prepared and do all that kind of stuff too. And then, so basically tying that into the next topic is once you're in the studio, so now you're arrived, you know everything that you did to prepare yourself for the studio, but once you arrive to the studio, make sure that you're conscious of how you want to spend your studio session. So again, tying back a little bit to okay, whether you freestyle or you have writtens or whatever, or maybe
whether you're looking for a beat, whether you have beats prepared, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So
now we're on the clock here.
Yeah, so just understand, okay, let's say you booked a session for 4, 5, 6 hours. Let's just say like 6 hours.
Okay.
Let's say like you have to understand how to allocate your time. So you got to be like,
Right.
what do you want to do within those 6 hours? Do you want to just record all the songs that you've written? Okay, that's fine too. Make sure you set aside time for that too. Or do you want to like work on, let's say, 2 songs and kind of really spend your time, take your time and be like, okay, so I want to do this and then really think about it and be analytical or whatever, blah, blah. Or let's say like you want to do 2 hours producing and then the next 2 hours writing and then the final 2 hours recording or writing while recording, being a hybrid kind of thing. It's important to understand that going into your sessions so that way, again, you don't leave with such a high expectation because
Right.
you got to understand within the studio, sometimes you may leave with nothing. And even that too, if you don't leave with anything, but not because of stupid shit where you were just too fucked up or you were just mad, unprepared or whatever. If you still try it, obviously it's just like try to make something out of it each time, so that way you're always improving when you're recording. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's funny, but even going into what you're saying there, I feel like even in life itself, one of the biggest skills that you have to learn how to master is time prioritization. You know, you got to learn how in any given day, you know, we have 24 hours. So it's like, what are we going to do within those 24 hours? How are we going to maximize our time? What tasks do we have to accomplish, you know? And that goes into booking a studio session. Like you said, you got 6 hours. Okay, bet. Well, I'm going to take this first 30 minutes or this first 20 minutes, find a beat, get the vibe going. Now we're going to start to record. Here we go. I'm going to take the next hour and a half, 2 hours, finish this song, wrap it up. I'm not going to overthink it, go to the next one. And then you just repeat. And then at the end of the day, once you keep doing that process, boom, you have like 3 songs done.
Yeah, and that's how you build up your skills and start building up that catalog to make that fucking career. You got what I'm saying?
Recording etiquette and, you know what I mean? Just being consistent with what you're doing is going to help you the most.
Yeah, and think of all the successful people or that are already successful within the music industry or people that inspired you to even create music. They have been doing it for such a long time, or however, even if they've been doing it for a year or whatever, like it doesn't really matter on the time. But if you can figure out something that works best for you and your workflow, and you can stick to that and always refine it to be better, then you're gonna be at a certain speed. Like I'm pretty sure somebody like Drake or Future or whoever the fuck, J. Cole, whoever you look up to, Cardi, whatever the fuck, you know what I'm saying? They have a specific workflow where they're in the studio and they figured out what works for them. So another thing with all this advice on the internet, especially with music, it's test it out, try it out, but don't forget to form your own judgment too, because it's not one size fits all. You can't just do one thing and expect it to work for everything, especially within music. It's always variable and changing. So you have to be really conscious and really aware of that. And another factor within that too is understanding who you bring to your studio sessions. So let's
big time.
Let's start it off with people who don't necessarily have anything to contribute to the song or the music. Usually what I've noticed is when you're in a session and you booked a session and you wanted to record and you kind of just bring friends over or whatever the fuck and they're just there, that's kind of cool too. I mean, if that's your vibe for that moment or whatever, like you want to just have somebody, hey, yeah, man, check it out, let's do this, let's do this, let's do that. But if you're consistently booking sessions and you're making it a career and you're really trying to develop yourself and discover your own artistic voice, one thing that I've noticed within my sessions is if I have an artist who comes and they book a session and they bring somebody who has absolutely nothing to do with music at all, usually, and this is a part of a studio etiquette too, bro. If you don't have nothing to do with the song, don't necessarily make comments on the song or understand when to make comments, because one thing as an engineer is that's the quickest way to throw a fucking artist off. I don't want the artist to be thrown off or second guessing what they said. Sometimes, you know, it's very fluid. I like to let the artist speak and say their ideas, because another thing too is like there's people who go into the studio and they'll do shit, they'll make it as a joke, and then certain people they'll like do like an ad lib or something, and then their friend will be laughing like, oh, haha, what the fuck, he's just yelling, he's going whoa, yeah, you know what I'm saying?
But it's a cool idea. They don't see the actual artistic vision that it could be.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's funny. One of the biggest things is if you're in a studio session with with another artist, right, and you're not recording whatsoever, you're just a friend who's there in the session for whatever support, whatever reason, you're there. Just know your fucking place, because know your fucking place, because it's like it's the biggest way to throw off a session, and it's the biggest way to throw off an engineer, like the artist, everything. It's just sit back, just enjoy being in the studio, but also it's like just know your place, because you don't want to throw the flow of the session off in any sort of way.
Yeah, and that's literally just part of studio etiquette. In a lot of big sessions, that's the quickest way to get kicked out of a fucking session.
Yeah, but 100%. But more than even that, just like not even like a person who's not recording, even if you're like a friend who is recording, just like sometimes you gotta know when to give your input and when not to. So it's like
to not get in the way.
Yeah, sometimes just literally shut the fuck up and don't say shit. Don't do it. I've had it. It's so annoying. Like, even as an engineer, it's really annoying. Like, I'm trying to critically listen, and when I have somebody behind me saying some bullshit, I'm like, yo, what the fuck are you saying? Like, just let my boy do his thing.
Like the meme says, hold on, let him cook. Let him cook. Yes. And that's a big thing within this music space too, because I've even noticed it with producers. Sometimes you gotta let the producer cook too. Like, if you're an artist and you're pushing the producer, it's like fucking sometimes certain artists, they'll be in the studio session, they're like, hey bro, yeah, I want this, I want that. The producer's doing something or whatever. Like, if you're making beats from scratch.
Like, hey bro, I ain't gonna ever make a beat like that.
Yeah, well, this motherfucker. Oh yeah,
Just kidding.
I forgot about that. Yeah. I was like, wait, huh? But whatever. Yeah, but like, so like sometimes, yeah, if you're making a beat from scratch and you're a producer and you're just kind of in the vibe or whatever with the artist, that was what you guys wanted to do within the session. Like, I've learned within this career to just really let the ideas flow, because this is a sacred space for you to be creative and try out stupid shit, even if you sound fucking stupid or retarded, or because it's kind of like not hard, but like if you're new to this and you're trying to like get out of your shell and be more expressive, you know what I'm saying, and vulnerable and just open up within the music space, and if you have people there who are just laughing or just immature or whatever, it could throw you off.
It'll affect your delivery, it'll affect your confidence. And at the end of the day, when you're in the studio, it's when you're on that microphone, you're trying to find your voice, and you want to be as comfortable as possible. You want to be working with the people in the room who are going to make you as comfortable as possible to get those results. Because otherwise, it's just going to feel weird. There's going to be that little factor that's throwing off your confidence in your delivery.
Exactly. And again, just removing all that friction, that's just shit that you don't need. You know what I'm saying? But but as far as people who are there, just if you are going to have people there, I would recommend that you have people who are actually contributing to the song, or people that you trust. You could have somebody who doesn't necessarily make music, but they're like a taste maker, and you have them there because you know that they have good taste within specific music.
Look at Rick Rubin.
Yeah, exactly. And fucking they're there because they're here to tell you like, oh, okay, this is a little bit better. Yeah, okay, follow this idea, do this, do that, because certainly artists need that specific guidance. But I think it's better to kind of have that guidance from people who have that taste developed, or have that ear developed, have those skills developed. Because if you're just a complete bystander on the side and you're just kind of mentioning shit, like, yeah, I get it, you're a consumer and you don't know nothing about it, and certainly that perspective is good too, but I feel like that perspective is better after the session, not during the session. During the session, just let the artist do whatever the fuck they want, bro. If they want to fucking fart on the mic, fart on the motherfucking mic.
Oh, hell no.
No, just kidding, but
oh, hell no.
Imagine.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah, and then also another thing too, as far as like studio etiquette goes, don't fucking be in the session and like have a bunch of people like, hey bro, yeah, pull up, hey bro, yeah, pull up, hey bro, yeah, pull up, because again, that's gonna fuck up your whole session and fuck up your whole mood.
You have to let everybody in, go back and forth, stop time.
Yeah, because
that's just not it.
Because this is a very important.
It's not a party; it's a studio session. Unless you're booking the studio out like that
for a party,
cool,
yeah,
whatever. But like, let's like make that clear from the jump. You know what I'm saying? So this isn't gonna affect the workflow at all.
Yeah, because another thing too is, let's say you're just in a recording session, right? You have your beat and your song prepared. It's a different vibe when you're literally just working, you as an artist and just the engineer, just one-on-one, because those sessions, yeah, they're a little bit more intimate with what you could really create, and it's just two people, one engineer and one artist, and you guys are actively working together to build something. Because when you have sessions with multiple people, there's people talking in the background. You're like, hey bro, punch me in. You can't even hear because everybody else is in the background talking this and this and this and that, fucking up the whole productivity for the whole fucking session.
Yeah.
So sometimes if you haven't even booked a session by yourself where it's just you and the engineer, you get what I'm saying? At least try it out once in a while, because that's where you could really develop your own shit. Because again, playing off of what he
100%.
said, yeah, sometimes you'll work with other artists too, and certain artists are like, nah, bro, just do it like this, do it like this. And then I've seen it before firsthand. Yeah, like there's certain artists where the artist will be like saying some shit, doing some shit, and then there's another artist there, and he's like, nah, bro, trust. Like I've literally seen, he's like, nah, bro, like I know better, bro, like trust, like I know, like I've been doing this longer than you, bro, like just do this. But dude, honestly, that's some dickhead shit, bro. Like just let them fucking
just chill. Let them do. Let them cook.
Yeah, let them
Going
cook.
back to that.
Yeah. So that's another important thing to kind of keep in mind as well.
Yeah, so adding to what you were saying, personally for me, the one-on-one sessions, those are personally my favorite because I feel like you get the most done out of those. I feel like you really get a chance to really one-on-one lock in with the artist and like put your all in as an engineer, and they just feel so much more comfortable and they can give it their all themselves.
Yeah, you really hone in on your craft without external noise. There's a lot of external. The world is already filled with noise. You get what I'm saying? And you want to be
in your own space.
Yeah, dead focused, because anything nowadays, we're in the era of fucking distraction, bro. You could be on your phone scrolling for fucking hours. You could do this, but there's nothing like working, literally locking yourself out and just being locked the fuck in with no distraction, even maybe no phone, no nothing. Like you're just there within that moment. And
and personally, you're gonna feel the most accomplished after something like that too. You knowing that you're literally locked in and you get something done and you're juiced on it, that's the best feeling ever.
Exactly. And then also too, so while you're in your session, tying into the timing thing too. So now we've already discussed, okay, we're gonna have this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. Also being aware of how much time you have left within your studio, because sometimes when you book out studios, there's a lot back to back to back, and you don't want to run out of time and get to the end of your session and you're mid song. So kind of be conscious and look at the clock, or if you're an engineer, kind of remind, hey, we got 30 more minutes. Was there anything specific that you wanted to get done, or this and this and this and that? Because you don't, because that's another way to leave frustrated too. You don't want to be mid session, mid song, you get what I'm saying, and
not
then
keeping track of time. And then all of a sudden you look at it and you're like, oh shit, what the fuck? Nah, what?
Yeah,
and then you get all mad. It's
and then let's say you have like a specific flow or momentum going too, because it's like warming up. You get what I'm saying? Like in the beginning, you're warming up, you're kind of going into it, and let's say you have like literally like 1 minute left in the session, and you feel like, yeah, I'm kind of good, I'm rocking, I'm doing this, doing that, and then the engineer's like, oh, bro, I gotta bounce this out. My next session's here. You're gonna be kind of pissed. You know what I'm saying? So
I've seen it. I've had it. Believe me, And I mean, it just kind of is what it is. But it's just important for the artists on their part to be accountable for their time.
Exactly. And then, so after you finish your session, right? I feel like this is the biggest kind of thing to really reflect on, to kind of see how could I make my session better. Again, it's a productivity thing, but whenever you're doing anything, any craft, the best way to kind of do it is do things to make things easier for yourself. So that way the next time you can create something even better.
Yeah. So for example, right, when you book a studio session, right, you're let's just say it's your first experience at a studio. Okay, you come in, you book 3 hours, you record a song, you get it done. All right, bet. Now you have that one done, but you want to think ahead for the next time you have a session. Okay, bet. How can I make this session more efficient? What can I do next time to make my experience even better? And you want to have that mindset every time that you go into a session, because at the end of the day, you're just going to keep improving. That's just a way to constantly improve.
I think one of the things that people can like actively do right now while watching this video is kind of look at what you want to improve too. Like if you focus on one specific thing that you want to improve, I think that's also super valuable as well, whether you're an artist, producer, or engineer. You get what I'm saying? If you're an artist, say, okay, I kind of want to improve like my delivery for my flow a little bit, or let's say, like I kind of want to play with the ad libs a little bit more, get better at my ad libs, or I heard this interesting stack. How did this artist get this? I kind of want to figure out how to like stack my vocals a little bit better, so it's like this. You know what I'm saying? Because when you can incrementally improve everything one by one by one by one, eventually you get so good at it that you make it look fucking easy. You get what I'm saying? Because it's a skill to be able to perform as an artist. It's a skill to capture the artist's performance as an engineer, and production is a whole skill within itself. That's self-explanatory. So just keep a gauge on that after each session. It doesn't have to be perfect or punctual, but just building that efficiency to stay consistent, and that's how you're going to have a successful career. You get what I'm saying? Understanding those types of things will help you just create more, release more, and just have a better career overall.
And if you have any questions also as an artist, when you come to the studio or even beforehand, don't be afraid to ask, because, you know, that's what we're here to do. Give you guys information, help teach you guys how to improve as artists, and develop all as one.
Yeah, and also after you finish your session, let's say you were mid-session and you didn't get to finish the song that you wanted to finish. So reflect again on how much time you need, because if you understand how long it really takes you to make a song, if you know, okay, yeah, bet I can make a song in 2 hours, like a good song that I fuck with, or yeah, I can make a song in an hour or 2 hours, you get what I'm saying? Understanding how much time you need within your session to be efficient to get whatever that you need to get done. Because a lot of people too, this is for like the other side of the spectrum. There's certain people who they'll book studio sessions for long hours, like 12 hours plus, and that's kind of cool too. But I was reading a productivity book. It's called Deep Work, and that one says just because you work a whole 12-hour shift doesn't mean that that's necessarily the most efficient and most productive, because I forgot what it's called. It has a specific law, but it says like if you give yourself X amount of time to do something, it has a name, but if you give yourself X amount of time to do something, you will take that long to get that task done. So if you tell yourself, I want to get this song done in 2 hours, you will actually give yourself 2 hours to finish that song. Or if you just minimize your constraint, like people can do it. That's why there's challenges that exist, like, oh, making a beat in 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Because you can actively do that. So if you could use that and use it in your favor to kind of do whatever it is that you want to do. But for the super long sessions that are super dragged out within 12-hour sessions, you can say, okay, yeah, bet I want to work for 12 hours and get this many songs done or whatever. And if you have the endurance to work that like that and you want to work like that, go ahead and knock yourself out. But one thing too is you kind of don't really want to overcompensate on time, because as humans, what I learned from that book is we have a specific threshold as to where our attention and our focus goes. So if you were to focus really hard for 4 hours straight and work on X amount of music, that's going to be better than if you were to do like a 12-hour session. You have 4 hours and then you're fucking 8 hours in, and then you got 4 more hours. The last 4 hours aren't necessarily going to be as productive as the first 4 hours when you're going into it.
Yeah, so, I think for a 12-hour session, personally, like let's just say you are going to book a 12-hour session, from my experience, I think the best way to do it is probably go into it with a couple other people that you know are, you know, they're artists that you possibly work with, or, you know, that you have some sort of relationship with, even like a producer, you know, because I run a lot of 12-hour sessions, and a lot of the times for me personally, they are back to back to back. I don't even get a break. Everything is back to back to back. But that's also because they know how to evenly distribute the time. So at the end of the day, it just goes back to time prioritization, like how you're going to go about things as an artist, what you're going to do coming into the session, but most importantly, just come prepared, have the right mindset, and know what you're getting into when you get here.
Yeah, and then another thing too is giving yourself too little time. So after you book a session, if you give yourself too little time, there's a lot of people, they say, oh, bro, can I record a song for an hour?
Let me
book an hour. And yeah, if you work fast or whatever, yeah, you can do that.
It works. I've had it. I have it.
Yeah, it works, but
it just depends on your workflow.
Yeah, but then you got to think of it like this. If let's say you have a specific formula down, right, as an artist, and you could record, let's say you record fast as fuck. Let's say you could record 4 songs in 1 hour. Like that's like 15 minutes a song. You understand? Like you're just that fucking fast.
Yeah.
Kind of like sit back and reflect on it and be like, well, was this really my best work? You get what I'm saying? Because I feel like there's a lot of artists that they are recording for a specific amount of time, and then they kind of they're not progressing upward. They're just kind of steady and stagnant within their progress because they're not giving themselves that amount of time. They're not really reflecting on what they created, and they're just going at it, going at it, going at it, going at it. And
Gotcha.
yeah, and you're not necessarily even really like looking at what you're creating. You're just kind of creating and just throwing shit to the wall and hoping that it sticks. And sometimes it can stick, and you can create a lot like that. But again, back to that deep work book. It's a productivity book, and a lot of people, they think just because I'm doing something, I'm being productive, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're being productive. You could really be replying to like a billion emails, you get what I'm saying, for 12 hours straight, let's say, right? But is that really the most productive use of your time, or could you do something else that creates more value with the time spent? That's what that whole book is really all about. You know what I'm saying? Understanding the specific tasks that again, you're creating leverage and that have more weight to when you do them, because obviously when you do something, something's going to hold more weight than another thing. Like you could clean your house all day from top to bottom for 12 hours and you could be thinking that you're doing something. I mean, yeah, I guess you could have a clean house or whatever, but let's just say like in business terms, you could clean your house for 12 hours straight or whatever, blah, blah. Not, that's a exaggerated example, but let's just say that for that instance. Or within, you could hire some. This is how a lot of business people think, and this is the music business. You guys got to educate yourself on business too, but a lot of business people, why do you think there's a lot of rich people who have certain people do certain things for them? Because
their time is worth money.
Yeah, because their time is worth money, and they can do other tasks that hold more weight and more leverage and get them more results than if they were to just be cleaning all day. You get what I'm saying? Because that's a common misconception. You could think, oh yeah, I'm cleaning, I'm doing something productive, but in reality, you're not producing anything that can bring you more results, so that way you can get more leverage on whatever it is that you're doing. So that way, let's say you could potentially make more money and have somebody else clean for you. You get what I'm saying? So that's kind of like the business side of things, and understanding the time and the value to really create something, but tying that back into the thought of just kind of being on autopilot. Okay, let's say you built yourself a specific workflow where you're on autopilot and you're recording a billion songs, but none of those songs took off, or none of those songs got momentum. Then guess what? Again, you're not progressing. You're being stagnant because you're repeating the same formulas. That's why it's important to go back and reflect. And if you're not necessarily gaining traction, you got to think of, okay, what can I do to change this a little bit to get a different result? Because they say that that's the definition of insanity, doing the same things and expecting different results. And
Interesting.
Yeah,
But yeah, it makes sense. No, 100%. That makes sense.
That's why you can't be doing the same shit 24/7, because realistically speaking, think of what you were doing now, the moment that you're watching this video, and what you were doing a year ago. We're always growing and progressing. And again, you want to kind of not necessarily be on autopilot and be conscious and aware of what you're doing, and always kind of maintaining that challenge, because through those challenges, you will overcome your creative blocks or whatever else it is that get in the way of how great of the work that you create is, if that makes any sense. But
No, yeah, 100%.
yeah, so, and again, you have to be consistent with it, because it's literally like working out, you know? We mentioned this before.
Yep, exactly. Like you can't just expect to come to the studio once and leave, and then, you know what I mean?
Not book for a whole year,
Not
8
book
months.
for a year without at least practicing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what at least without practicing. You can't just expect to come once and then come a year later and then, you know, like see crazy big results. You got to come consistent. You got to at least work on your craft consistently if you want to get better. And with music, it's all about finding your sound as an artist, finding your voice, and just being able to use it in the best way possible. And with that being said, the best way to do that is make more songs, record, figure out what works, figure out what doesn't, trial and error. But at the end of the day, like working out, be consistent with it. Because if you're not consistent with it, how do you expect to see any progress?
Exactly.
You're going to just be at a flat line.
Exactly. And this is for all the people who are serious. So if you watch to this point, again, congratulations to you. But
because you are considered serious.
Yeah, because this is for people who really want to make something out of their music career. You get what I'm saying? Because again, yeah, I've worked with countless artists, or I've been recording for about like 8 years now, working on music for 8 years now. And you see a lot of people come and go. And there's a lot of people who are very passionate about music when they get into it. But when they don't see any results for their music or that kind of thing or whatever, then I've literally seen people's flames start to fizzle out and they start to just lose hope on their dream. And just remember why you started, to keep that momentum going. But you really have to be, if you're serious, you have to be active and think about these things, because if you don't think about these things, then again, you're not progressing. You're just on autopilot, tricking yourself to thinking that you're productive and you're progressing, when in all reality, you're not doing anything of value that's building you up more as a character, as an artist, and your career. You get what I'm saying? But building off of that too, also, after you listen to your music and you have your session done, or you create your music or whatever, also give it some time to kind of sit and relax too, so you can properly reflect. Because for a lot of artists, I feel like it's common to stress out on the results that they got for their song. Sometimes there's certain people who, like the demoitis thing, they just listen to the song,
they're perfectionists,
nonstop, over and over and over and over and over, thinking, how the fuck can I make this better? How can I do this? How can I do this? How can I do that? But sometimes, like one of my friends said, the song is just too fresh, and you just gotta like take a break and let it chill, and then go back to it, because then you get a fresh perspective on your song. And that's for all the mixing engineers, like once you get ear fatigue, that's fresh too. If you're a producer, and you have a specific idea and you're just kind of drilling the idea into your beat, you've seen the memes online where it's like, oh, when I was making the song at 4 a.m. at night, and then when I play it the next morning and then you hear it, you know what I'm saying? And it's like something stupid, like a dumbass beat. That's why that's a fucking thing, and that's why that's a meme within itself, because you have to give yourself that time to really get a new perspective on it. And that's how you become more objective when you're making music, because
rather than subjective.
Yeah, music overall, it is a subjective art, but there's certain points when creating music. Let's say if you were recording a song and for 4 hours straight, you were just trying to get one little word done, and then you start to get frustrated as fuck. I know it's happened to somebody or a few of you guys. Maybe you're going to come across that within your career one of these days, because when you are making music, it could be very frustrating. So the best thing to do is just keep it moving and keep it going, and then
come back to
it later. Because when you're starting to repeat a specific pattern, one thing that I've noticed personally when I'm engineering, whenever I see an artist kind of getting into that loop and they're recording the same word over and over and over and over and over, what I like to tell the artist is, okay, look, we're kind of struggling with this a bit. I'm trying to keep the workflow moving forward and that kind of stuff. So let's just leave that sitting right there, and let's just keep pushing forward through the song, and then let's loop back over, and then whatever you want to fix, we'll fix after, because that'll break you out of that loop. You don't want to be stuck in a loop, because when you're stuck in that loop, again, that's insanity. You're driving yourself insane. You're doing the same thing, expecting different results. And
you want to keep it moving at the end of the day,
Yeah, the more that you hear it, the more every take is going to sound the same, because this is another thing too. There's certain people who they'll record the same take to a fucking, like, one ad-lib or whatever a billion fucking times. And then you go back and then you listen to all the ad-libs and you're like, damn, bro, like this shit really sounded the same. So again, it was harder for you to be a little bit more objective within that subjective region. You get what I'm saying? So that's why it's important to take breaks and relax and just kind of sit back a little bit before you go back to reflect on that, if you're having that issue. And then it's also important to just work with people who are on the same shit that you're on, or that are serious about what it is that they're doing, if you want to be serious. There's nothing more frustrating or annoying working with an engineer that can't keep up, working with a producer that can't keep up, or working with an artist that can't keep up, for all parties. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. It's all an equal effort combination.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do to put in, you got to put in the work to get the results that you want.
Right.
And you got to find people who do the same thing too, because you are who you hang out with, and that applies into the work.
Life. That applies into life, you know what I mean? Like, you are who you surround yourself with at the end of the day. Like, if you're an artist, you want to surround yourself with a good team and with good people around you, and people who actually care about your music, who are on the same page, who can capture the sound that you are specifically going for.
Because that ultimately
Yeah.
reflects in your work. If you're working with a
100%.
bunch of mediocre artists, like, I mean, yeah, I guess there's a chance where you could outshine them, but if you're working with artists who aren't serious about it, you'll notice that they're gonna quit before you. And if you're serious, you're gonna still keep going. So it's like,
Right.
might as well just find the people who are serious and they do keep going, because again, that all reflects into your work. If you're working with a bunch of mediocre artists, your art is most likely gonna sound mediocre. Again, it's subjective and it's different from people to people, but if you want to make this a career, usually art is a tricky space, because there's a lot of, on the other side of the spectrum, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, there's a lot of people who say, well, art is art, and that's how it is, and I respect that and I get that, and you're just kind of having ideas, you're putting them out. But that's why I said earlier, yeah, like, I don't want to obstruct the flow of the artist in any way, shape, or form. But there's a lot of people who, yeah, they give themselves that title, I'm an artist, bro, but it's like, okay, yeah, I could draw a line on a paper and say I'm an artist too. You get what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
is that really like something of value? So if you want to choose to make your art a career and have people respect your art, because it goes down to respect. If they respect your art, then they'll actively turn into fans or want to buy your beats or even work with you as an engineer, because why do you think a lot of people hold celebrities for the success? Why do you think there's people out there that they will pay 2, 3, 4,000 for like a local artist to give a feature? Because they have respect behind their art, and that art holds weight. You can't just get a feature from, let's say, Drake or whatever and expect it to be cheap. No, because he built up that platform because he's serious and people take his art serious and they respect it. So why wouldn't you want that for your music if you're trying to make that a career? So that's just what I want to say about that. But as far as all that goes, you know what I'm saying, then the last thing that you want to do too, after you work with all the right people, is also just maintaining your files. You get what I'm saying? Because there's nothing worse than being an artist, recording a session, and then you leave, and then you want to go back to it, and for whatever reason your files are lost. You get what I'm saying? Like, whether you want to get your song mixed or mastered, or whether you want to, whatever it is, you know, just go back and re-record it and all that kind of stuff. That could be frustrating too, especially, again, if you want to make this a career. So if you do plan on making it a career, either work at a studio where they do save your files and they do want to build with you and they do want to fucking create, you know what I'm saying? Have that, so that way you have trust knowing like, okay, my files are safe, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I also do highly encourage a lot of artists, let's say you do hop around from studio to studio.
Get a hard drive.
Exactly. Get a hard drive, and then at the end of your session, save all your files, so that way it doesn't matter where you go, because it's another thing too where, let's say you are an artist and you know that the studio has your files, but then the studio's just busy, or the person that you're working with just takes forever to fucking send over files, then that could be a fucking headache too, and that could slow down the whole process as well. And again, we want to make this as efficient as possible. So if you're serious, make it a habit to save your files after each session. You get what I'm saying?
And give yourself enough time to do so during your session.
Or even if, like, not during your session, but even after your session, if you know you're working with a good engineer and it's time to go or whatever, just ask the engineer, hey, like, I fuck with it. Can you just send me the session file so I can have them for my hard drive or whatever, if you're running out of time? Just respect that too. But, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. And at the end of the day, just understand why you got into it, and understand that having a music career, it could be a long path. I mean, there's certain people who they do see success so quickly, but again, it's not about how quickly you can get into the game and be on top and then fade out. No, it's about how long you can be consistent within the game. It's not the destination, it's the journey. And why would you want to be like an artist who's a one-hit wonder when you could be a legend? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. You know,
everybody has different goals and all that kind of stuff.
Just remember why you got into it at the end of the day, you know, because when it comes to music, you know, it really comes down to like a love and a passion thing. You gotta love doing it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Because there's certain people who, again, like, there's nothing more that I hate to see is somebody who is very, very passionate about music and their craft, and they took it so serious, and then to see that flame fizzle out, like, personally, to me, that hurts.
Sucks,
that hurts me as an engineer, because I'm like, man, like, this dude was doing so good. He had this much momentum. Like, we were getting some good shit going, and then you're like, hey, bro, what happened? Where you been? It's like, oh, I just haven't really been writing that much. And then I'm just like, oh, fuck, man, like that.
Yeah.
That shit kind of sucks, and that's unfortunate. But
It just is what it is.
That's what separates, again, the successful people versus the unsuccessful people, because you got to have that discipline too. Even if necessarily you, it's like the creative discipline. There's a lot of creators who they've disciplined themselves. They've created that much for that long, where they're able to come up with ideas very quickly because they're used to creating those ideas, and they built that through that discipline. And again, I guess the real passion separates who's going to be successful or not, or who's going to quit or not, at least, because again, it's all a dream, I guess, and never give up on your dreams, because you don't want to be old and look back and be like, man, I should have done this,
should have done this, wish I could have done this.
Exactly. Sometimes you got to just take that risk or suffer now, you know what I'm saying, and then just reap the rewards later. That's just all fucking mental. I mean
shit, that's the way I perceive it personally. Like for me personally, look, like, you know, at my age, I'm more focused on trying to work on my dreams rather than just work a normal regular job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, I'd rather do this than just kind of give up. I can do that at any point if I really need to. It's like, but now, you know, it's just time to go. It's go time.
Yes, sir, skis.
But yeah.
But I think that's pretty good.
That's pretty much it.
So hopefully that helps you win in the studio. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Thank you for tuning in to another Audio Alchemy podcast episode. If you need beats, hit up Mr. Michael Tabinski. He has beats.
100%.
If you want to learn how to record and engineer yourself and learn how to do that in the quickest way possible, tap into the ProTools recording course. And here's a video. Check out this video. It's going to show you something great or something valuable. So don't forget to check that out. And we will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace out.